All right, well, it's 12 o'clock. And listen, if we're going to talk about business, we're going to talk about professionalism, and we're going to talk about being on time, because when you're early, you're on time. And when you're on time, you are late. So it is 12 o'clock. It is our weekly uh, meeting time, right? It's an opportunity to come in and just have a quick conversation, a quick business conversation over lunch is what I call it. Opportunity to just come in. And I hope you guys use this opportunity to, I know oftentimes we're busy and you're kind of listening in the background, but I find if you can just kind of use this opportunity to reflect. I know everyone has their schedules, and I personally, I do have time allotted in my schedule each week to plan and strategize for my business. And so that's the vein, and that is the nature of this call each week. And so the idea, for closing sake, again, with us all being in real estate, and the finish line is closing, right? We get keys to properties. Our clients get keys to their properties. Our clients get checks for their proceeds. We get commission checks when we get to closing, right? That is the culmination of all of our activity. And so everything that we do is all for the purpose of closing. It's for closing sake, right? We put up with challenging clients. We get little sleep sometimes. We forego activities and events that we would love to attend because we got a last minute showing, or we got a client that called us out of nowhere, but it's for closing sake, right? For closing sake. Sometimes, the dreaded giving up part of your commission for closing sake. But I'm going to do this for closing sake, right? I'm trying to get to the closing table. And so to this, every week that we come together, it's for the purpose of, it's for closing sake. Let's have a conversation on how we can continue to get you to the closing table easily and more frequently. And so, as you guys know, for closing sake, the mission, the whole reason that we come together is to provide you with a weekly coaching call. It's for our real estate professionals. People that are on the call, you guys, most everyone is licensed, but some are, they're operating in the investor space. Some are brokers. Some are realtors full-time specifically. Some are part-time. Some are real estate professionals. Some are not even realtors, but they may be in the mortgage space, right? Some are in the inspection space. But we're all in the real estate space, and we all get paid when? At closing. And so we're saying it's for closing sake. It's for closing sake, because we all are trying to get to the closing finish line. And so each week we come together to discuss the latest trends and need to know information to grow your business, right? If you're not growing, you're dying, or you're preparing to die, right? It's all about growth. I actually have in my office, it's a quote by Jeff Bezos. If you know me well, you know I love Jeff Bezos. It says, we cannot be in survival mode. We must always be in growth mode, right? Yep. We cannot be in survival mode. We have to be in growth mode. It's in the right behind me in that shelf right there. So it's all about growing your business. And so every time we come together, I want to see some growth. I want to see some growth in your business. And I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. Every time we have a conversation, there is growth in our businesses, because when you curate a topic and when you curate information, you're oftentimes the first partaker, and it reinforces what you already know, and you oftentimes see things a different way. So I appreciate, like I mentioned to you guys last week, the opportunity to be accountable to you, to come before you each week and have this conversation, because it causes me to grow as well. For those who I have not had an opportunity to meet before, my name is Racole Jackson. A little bit about myself, my background. I am education-wise, I mean, everybody wants to know. So we have some relationship. University of Florida, Bachelor of Arts. Go Gators. You're always going to get that. I obtained my law degree from Santa Clara University School of Law, where I was the founder of the Real Estate Law Society. Came back home. I am originally from Miami and got my law degree, my LLM from the University of Miami School of Law in Real Property Development. And I am a licensed realtor in Florida. It's actually my second real estate license. I got my first license in California when I was in law school. So I always provide that background information because we have new people on the call every week. And most of the time people lead off, oh, she's a real estate attorney. Well, believe it or not, guys, that was those licenses came after my real estate license. It was always a passion to be in real estate, but I was in the weeds doing transactions before I became a real estate attorney. And so for that reason, again, I always come with a different perspective. I come from knowing that, you know, it was getting the license first and then learning how to do the business, right? We got the license, then we learned, oh, this is what being a real estate sales professional is. And so having gone through that process, and I would say pretty successfully, I love the opportunity to come back and kind of continue to guide that conversation. So quick commercial break. We are Title Xperts is my title company. And I founded it a number of years ago. Again, it is one of the additional business lines that we have. It grew out of my passion for real estate. After I got my real estate license, law degree, dug into title, and it was for the purpose, again, of delivering a closing experience that really helped grow a realtor's business, honestly. Understanding the process, being able to provide the service in a way that helps you service your clients in a very professional way, right? Because even your closing, even though you're not the closing agent, just because you're part of that process, how your clients feel about their closing process is imputed to you. And so we are an attorney managed firm. Just in case you didn't know, in Florida, you don't have to be an attorney to own a title company. But I'm sure you know the benefits thereof. So we are an attorney managed title firm. We have a dedicated closing team. We do provide regular status updates, helpful closing guides, and rush processing is available. So that's just a quick overview of Title Xperts. If you have not had an opportunity to work with us before, of course, we would love to welcome you into the fold and have you experience a Title Xperts closing. We're always looking to grow our relationships. We do service all of Florida. They say from the keys to the trees. And so we have offices that are strategically located throughout Florida, as well as obviously we utilize mobile notaries and remote online notarization. So if you go into contract, happen to go into contract while you're on the call today, you can send your new contract to contracts@titlexperts.com. If you have questions, closings@titlexperts.com, and you can call us at 866-5-Xperts from anywhere in the U.S. Now, to our regularly scheduled program. So when we started last month and we were talking about execution, we started off in the month, again, we talked about how everyone talks about business planning and business goals. And we started last month talking about, okay, you can have a plan, but if you're not going to execute on the plan, it's just as good as not having it, right? And so we spent some time getting very focused. We laser focused on, when I build this plan, what are the most important parts of my plan, and how am I going to ensure that I execute? You guys, I got to tell you, I don't know if I'm ever going to get away from having this conversation about execution every time we come together, because again, that's what creates income, right? Ideas are fun, but execution creates income. And as you have probably heard me say before, one of the favorite lines of one of the partners at my prior firm was, this is not a charity. They would always say, well, this is not a charity. I mean, there is a place for charitable work, but this is not a charity. You guys don't show homes and, you know, away from your family and burn gas and time to be charitable. And when you do decide to be charitable, let that be by intention. But I would assume most of the time this is for income, right? And so in order to have income, you got to implement, you got to execute, and you got to figure out how to get yourself into execution regularly. So with that being said, part of that conversation was when we talked about business plans, we came to find out that a lot of people didn't have a business plan yet. And so the consensus was, well, let's revisit business plan. And to be perfectly honest with you, that's not a bad idea. You can always revisit and tune up your business plan. And the reason why is because you're coming from a different perspective, right? So your first business plan will not and should not look like your second business plan. Your first business plan can kind of be ambitious because you're not really sure how it's going to play out. You take direction from the person that's telling you how to write it. You have this whole format and this structure, but what ends up happening is you have to be prepared to pivot. Once you start implementing, you have to be prepared to pivot based on what? Market conditions, based on life conditions, right? But if you understand your business and you understand what it takes to make money in your business, if you understand what moves the needle, then your processes can change, right? Your processes can change. And so as we go through this conversation, we're going to dive deeper into what are my processes and procedures to get to income, right? What are the things that I really need to focus on to get to income consistently? Because that's what a business is, guys. A business is standard operating procedures that are executed consistently. We do the same thing all the time, every time, and that's how we get to income. So before we even do that, it would behoove us to talk about how we're going to operate our business if we haven't even properly set up our business. When you think about a business, what do you think of when you think of a business? You think of a structure, you think of a name, you think of a brand, you think of a product, you think of staff, right? You think of commercials, you think of a website, you think of a manager, right? You think of an entity, you think of an actual thing, right? You don't think of one person being the end all be all of the business. When you think business, you think structure, you think entity. You don't think person. You don't think person. When you think of Amazon, you know Jeff Bezos is the founder, but you don't think you're going to be working with Jeff Bezos. You understand he has a business that is set up to provide the service. And so what's oftentimes missed, we jump right past this, is that as real estate professionals, we're operating a business. We're operating a business. You're the owner and CEO of that business, but you're operating a business. And so you have to create the same structure that Amazon, Chick-fil-A, DoorDash, Gucci, you name it. You have to create the same structure. And one thing I always say is that that structure is going to expand or contract based on how large you want to operate, but you are a business. Now, why do people operate businesses? Everybody didn't just go and set up a business just because it was for the fun thing to do. There are fundamental protections and benefits to setting up a business. And so we're going to start very slow. We're going to start real smooth and easy on what you need to have in place to operate your real estate business. We're going to start from the basics. And, you know, one thing I've assumed, and you cannot assume, is people know these things. But everybody doesn't know. Everybody really doesn't know. Because again, what do we talk about? We talk about real estate school taught you how to pass the test. They didn't tell you how to run your business, right? And one of the first things to running a business is to have a business, right? And to have a business, there are certain things that you have to put in place to have a business, right? So we're going to talk today about just some of the very basic essentials of your real estate business structure. Some of the bare bones essentials is where we're going to start today, just to say, here is my business structure. Because what happens is we're going to need to build on that, because next week, once we're talking about business credit, we can't talk about credit if you don't have the business credentials to tie to the application and the account, right? So we need to start here building this business structure. So the first thing is you have to incorporate. You got to incorporate. So you've gone to real estate school, you got your license, but if you're operating as Enoch Martimer, it's just, again, are we dealing with Jeff Bezos? Or are we dealing with Amazon? Are we dealing with Enoch Martimer or Enoch Martimer PA? Are we dealing with the person or the business. You want them dealing with the business. People are going to handle you differently. He's LLC, love it. People are going to handle you differently if they're dealing with your business versus you individually. That's just what it is. Now, outside of professionalism, which we know we want, I want to drive home the fact that incorporation provides legal protection. It provides legal protection. So slide into my attorney seat, and I'm telling you that if you have an issue, an incident while you are operating, and you, Anne-Marie, Anne-Marie got on top of this last time we had this conversation. If you have an issue when you are operating, and you're operating as an individual and not a business, and there is litigation involved, guess who's going to be sued? You individually. And if they sue you individually, they're going to be able to reach all of your personal assets. All of your personal assets now, and potentially all of the personal assets that you will acquire, assuming they refile that judgment. Assuming they win, they get a judgment, and they continue to refile that judgment and attach it to your assets. Pause. I don't think anybody wants their personal assets, their personal assets on the line for their business, right? So it provides that protection and financial protection. That's where the financial protection comes in. So what happens is once you're set up, if there is an issue, the extent of that businesses, of that plaintiff's recovery, it's what's in the business. They stop at the business, and that's just it. So Anne-Marie Tolliver, PA, we don't want to, we know that you operate in excellence, and you're going to beat that case, but whatever may happen, they have to deal with the business and not you individually. Hanging our real estate license with a broker works as being an incorporation, correct? You can hang your, yes. So we're going to talk about that, and you can incorporate, you will incorporate, I would hope, after our call today, and you're going to hang your new license under your entity name with your broker. Very good question. Yep. So let's go through a couple of these points. We have people on the call from other areas, but I'm going to tell you specifically in Florida, we get calls all the time from realtors to help them incorporate. Well, listen, I'm going to save you some money. You don't have to call us for this. You go directly to Sunbiz and you can create your entity there. Sunbiz is where the entities are created. Your entity name can be a PA. You see Anne-Marie has PA. LLC, limited liability company. PLLC, professional limited liability company. So you want to select one of those entities, and honestly, which one you choose, I'll tell you, talk to your CPA. Talk to your CPA. Some of them have, because you're going to have a S corp and those types of things, but ultimately, you are incorporating. You are creating a separation between yourself individually and your company, right? Now, Jamie asked a good question. The last point you need to know is when you go incorporate, so that you don't waste your $175 or so, if you are operating as a sales associate or broker associate, you have to use your name and put the entity designation on the end of it. You cannot use what's called a vanity name. What is a vanity name? A vanity name is for closing sake real estate associates. You can't, if I'm a broker operating as a brokerage, I can use that name. That's called a vanity name, meaning that's not your true name, right? That's a vanity name. As an individual, you cannot use a vanity name in Florida. A brokerage can use a vanity name. All right, so you're going to have to use whatever your legal name is, specifically what your license did, and then you add the entity name at the end of it. Right after that, once you get your filing back from SunBiz, you're going to go and create, register an employer identification number. Here we go. As an individual, you have a social security number. As a business, you have a employer identification number. Again, we are two completely separate entities. You're going to create that employer identification number on the IRS website, irs.gov. They'll walk you through it. I think it's about maybe 10 screens. Costs you no money. You can get it right away. Literally, like when we get off this call, if you already have an entity and you so happen to not already have an EIN, just go on their website and create your EIN. That is going to allow you to now, remember we said financial protection, that is going to allow you now to use that number to make business credit applications. You're going to use that when you employ staff, if they're employees and you're paying them as salary workers. Even if they're contractors and you're paying them via 1099, you are using that number to track your financial information versus your own social security number, right? Jeff Bezos, Amazon. Jeff Bezos, Amazon, right? Yeah, you guys are running a business. Now, the third step after you do that, you're going to update your license. When your license was first issued, it was issued to your name, Anne-Marie Tolliver, that's it, as an individual. But once you set up your entity, you're going to need, if you're in Florida, we're talking specifically for Florida, you're going to need to update with Form RE16, DBPR's form, so that they change your license. Your license will now have your entity name on it. This is where we're getting to Jamie's question. You are going to update your license once it's confirmed with DBPR. Once that's confirmed, now you notify your broker. Hey, I am now Anne-Marie Tolliver, PA, right? I am now Enoch Mortimer, LLC. So that now when your commission checks, all, 25, 50, those commission checks that you get each month, they're going to be paid to your company, not to you individually. They're paid to your business, right? We're operating a business here. They're paid to your business, and then the business will pay you, CEO. Right? We're getting somewhere. Now, the next thing, and this is good. She did a PA. Yeah, you can do a PA. They're all PA, LLC. I've seen them all. Like you see here, Enoch has an LLC. I've seen the LLC. I've seen PAs. I've seen PLLCs. As long as you get that shroud, as they call it, of protection. And Enoch says, CEO, you are Enoch. Welcome to our calls. These guys know. Our tagline is act like an agent, think like a CEO. You are an agent CEO. Act like an agent, think like a CEO. You are the CEO of your very own real estate business. All right. So the next thing, every business, okay, I'm going to say this. You tell me. Someone says, oh, this is my business. And you say, oh, what's the website? And they don't have a website. What do you think of them? Immediately credibility down the tubes. You don't want, said scammers. You don't want to work with them if they don't have a website, right? Now, most of us, if we're with the brokerage, the broker will either, if the brokerage, I'll say this, you don't have to set up a website right away. You need a domain address. You should. And at the very least, at least get a landing page. You can at least get a landing page. Now, we're going to have more conversation about why you should have a fuller website, such that someone can go and look up properties, has the IDX feed on it and all those different things. But at the end of the day, you should have a domain name. It's too easy. It's too easy. You're going to go on GoDaddy and you're going to just search and see what's available. And I would even suggest to you, even if your firm, your brokerage has a website for you, just point your domain to that website, right? So let's say, for example, RacoleJackson.com. RacoleJackson.com is going, and I'm with Enoch Mortimer LLC. I will point my website to my page on my broker's website. Does that make sense? Just point my domain. Because at the end of the day, guys, I'm not trying to say you're going to be brokerage hopping, but this is your brand. This is your brand that hopefully it's going to stay with you forever, right? This is your brand. So even if you have a website, if you on your broker's website right now, lock in your domain so that you have it, right? You have your website, and then finally, no shade, but there's no reason for us not to have branded emails. Once you get your domain, you can then have your email. Enoch at Enoch Mortimer LLC, whatever your brand name is. It's too easy for us to not have to use at gmail.com, at hotmail.com, at yahoo.com, at AOL.com. God forbid you're using at AOL.com. Let me not say that because I've seen some AOL.com. But email, these are the basics. I'm just saying, if someone says they if Jeff Bezos sends you Jeff at gmail.com, Jeff, seriously, you don't have an email address? So we're just talking about being professional. And then lastly, just some basics. Business address and phone number. Most of the time, if you're with a brokerage, you're going to use that brokerage's address. I suggest you use the brokerage's address. I mean, because you should not be directing your clients, because you're with a brokerage. That's the whole purpose of using the whole requirement that you hang your license as a sales associate with a brokerage. Use a brokerage's address, right? And then the phone number, this is too easy, guys. I suggest this, even if you are going to have a business line, you can just purchase from Ring Central, Dialpad, you name it. I'm sure people can throw names. It's the voice over IP lines. And so it's a line, it's going to be your number forever. Make sure you check with that company to make sure that you can do what they call port the number. But you have to think for growth. I'm sure you guys are tired. If you're producing a little bit, you're tired of your phone ringing all the time, right? And so you have to think, who's going to be able to answer my phones? You have to think, I'm operating a business. When you call Amazon, you don't get Jeff Bezos answering the phone. Not happening. And you're not dialing him directly. Obviously, we're in a different business model. You're realtors, and you can be a single agent, but not be the only point of contact. Just get a business phone number. Again, it's the professionalism for me. If you put on that card your business phone number, it's very professional, right? Point that number to, you can even point it to your cell phone, but at some point you can point that number to an answering service. If I give you that, I'm not serious about whatever. That's so funny. You can point that number to your answering service, right? But now you have, it's your starter business. So those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quick ways, little quick ways. Remember, we just come together. I call it bite size, because it's over lunch, little bite-sized business tips. If you're not already doing these things, I know for sure there's a good amount of realtors that are not incorporated already. I know for sure, because you're not incorporated, you don't have an EIN. And if you don't have an EIN, then definitely, you haven't done anything with DBPR. But next week, when we start talking about business credit, you're going to be behind the 8 ball because you haven't even done these things yet. And these things are needed in order to develop business credit, as well as to create some tax savings for yourself. You guys know that businesses are taxed at a lower tax rate than personal income. You guys know that. I'm sure you know that. That's what all the gurus tell you. I'm not even going to tell you one of the main persons that told you why he paid such a low tax rate. and said, don't be mad at me, I'm following the tax code that was in place before me. So in closing, you guys got your checklist by next week. I hope these 5 things are done or in place, or you're planning to do them, so that we can build on some things for business credit and such, right? And tax planning. In closing, listen, I hope that you know you were born to win. I hope that you know that you were born to win. But to be a winner, you must plan to win. You must plan to win. It doesn't just happen. It doesn't just pop out of thin air, right? You must prepare to win, right? And then I want you to expect to win. I want your mindset to be, I'm gonna win. I may have to pivot. I may have to take a different course of action, but I expect to win. Others have done it. It's a proven method. I can do it as well. Only thing I have to do is plan, prepare, execute. We always have to execute and expect to win. The expectation is what's going to keep you going when you have to pivot, right?